Hello. Um, I don't know if this is going to record, but I'm just gonna talk for a little bit. So, um, Over the past 2 weeks that we've had off, I've had 2 weeks off from my job, over the break, paid, which is nice. But we've uh, we've experienced me and my partner have experienced some depression. Um, Basically, I want to talk specifically about one other night, and then I'll talk in general about where the depression is coming from. But so the other night, so I spent a whole day in bed on this past Thursday, and I was watching. Haven't really been eating, which is not my usual. I'm usually depression coincides with like eating for me, like eating the wrong type of food, but this time around I'm not really getting joy out of even food, so that's new. But I This is just about an astral being that um was trying to like suck my life force. So I spent the whole day watching videos about Kensington Avenue, the homeless situation in Seattle, Los Angeles, Portland. I learned all about this thing in Seattle where the police pulled out for it was like headline news that I didn't really pay too much attention to at the time, but I'm sure if you're an American, you know about this situation in Seattle where um it was like it coincided with like all that defund the police rhetoric, and there was like a hostile takeover with this from this group called like Chaz or something, and then the police pulled out completely of this certain block of Seattle. The police pulled out intervention into that area, so it was like a lawless territory, and but there was a bunch of like rapes and murders and terrible things that happened in that in just within like the space of a week or something. So the police re-entered, and just the homelessness situation in America is pretty dire. And then what to I so there's this guy who makes all these just like really tragic videos. I was just watching all his videos, and then I was watching about the the Texas Mexico border, and I was watching these little short documentaries about the people who travel by foot from Central and sometimes South America and Mexico, and they travel up and they spend like 4 months trekking through the jungle, sometimes pregnant with babies, with children, by foot, and by train and by boat and by um, but mainly by foot, and they travel for like 4 months to get to the border, only to be turned away or to be separated from their children, especially at that period when Trump was separating mother and families. He was separating families and like putting people in cages and things, and um, so I knew I shouldn't have done this. I have, just for my own sanity, I'm highly sensitive to like these types of things. hints like why I'm a preschool teacher. I've gone completely light side. I used to be a little more dark in my sensibility. I used to be a little bit more thick skinned. I wasn't as spiritually sensitive. I didn't have voice hearing and like astral projection, and all those faculties were kind of deadened at a certain time in my life, and that was when I was the most that's when I was like the darkest, is when I was the most spiritually deadened. And that's when I could look at things like horrific things that are happening in the world and not bat an eye, not even really even care. It was just I was a bit narcissistic. I didn't vote. I didn't follow any politics. I didn't follow any news or really give a shit what was going on in the world. My own life was a bit tumultuous, so it was hard to even see past, my own reflection. So, but yes, I was watching just a series of really tragic video after tragic video, and it was those though, and about like prostitution, every like prostitution, sex trafficking. I just watched one horrific video after the other, and yeah, there was periods where I was like bawling my eyes out, especially those immigration videos. Those poor people that just want a better life, and you can tell that they're really good people. Like the documentaries of those of South Americans and Central Americans and Mexicans who are traveling to the border. Some of them are nurses and have degrees, and you can just tell that they're really good and like hardworking, and like these are like good people. It was a stark contrast from like the drug addicts and homeless people. Not that they're not good people, but they're just not. They just don't want to be a part of society. These Central South American Mexican people, they want to be a part of society. They want to work hard. They want to contribute. They want a slot somewhere in society, and they will work, and they often, when they do come and they gain citizenship and all those things, as we know, they do end up contributing to society and working really hard and making sure that their children are educated. And it really tore me apart seeing so it was just those videos in particular. So I knew that I would have nightmares. So now, because of, like I was telling you, like my sensitivity levels are sky high, and really I have to avoid horror movies. I have to avoid tragic things most of the time. I have to avoid that kind of stuff because it really embeds itself into my conscious and my unconscious, and it'll become like it'll become like a black cloud that's hanging over my head. And this is not just solely something that happens to me. I know that this is happening to everybody around us who's constantly updating themselves on the latest news from the Gaza Strip. And I know that everyone is kind of has like there's kind of like a specter in the background that's a feeling of doom that is kind of prevails anyone who's a constant news watcher or political follower, or anyone who's listens to too many voices is your mind is polluted with too many different like tragic things, or polluted with too many different opinions. It could just be a bunch of assholes, just too many different voices, because now with the social media, I think that everyone is having sort of but but for some reason, people carry on and keep going, and uh, I think maybe it does take a true like kind of shaman to. I think a lot of people are like shamans in disguise, um, in the way that they navigate this perpetual stream of not, I was gonna say nonsense, but it's like tragic nonsense that is constantly pouring out of our devices about, things in the world. And I do think, ignorance is bliss to a certain extent. Um, Especially if you look outside and you, like with me, we have rose bushes, the sun is in the sky, it's summertime in New Zealand. Um, by all accounts, I'm in school, I have a good job, I have money in the bank, I have 2 dogs, I have a loving boyfriend. A bit of a depressed boyfriend currently, but I have a loving boyfriend. I have 2 dogs that I adore and give everything of myself for. I'm obsessive about the dogs. Um, I shouldn't be. I have no reason. I have no reason. I'm very blessed. So, but me and my boyfriend both have this habit, and it's where we go on the internet and we find the worst things. He takes it to the next level. He looks at like beheadings. I don't think he does this anymore, but he's had a history of looking at like cartel beheadings and tor- torture that's been captured on video from all around the world. And but I think we've both kind of felt what it's like to be close to like poverty and to be close to homelessness. So I think by watching videos of people on Kensington Avenue who are on trank and they're completely bent over, um, sort of, unfortunately we're both Capricorns, so it sort of scares us straight in a way and gets us motivated. It motivates us the next day. Like we have to clean up our wake up early, take a shower, put the coffee on, and like, okay, whew, that's not my life, thank God. That could very well have been my life at many different points throughout my life. And we start fresh, and I guess it generates some kind of energy for us. And so when I was laying in bed, I have this. So I was, yeah. So I was watching. I was watching all these videos, and then that night I had a dream about something cartel slash prostitution related, really dark and scary and twisted. And but somehow I ended up in the astral, and I was in. So lately I've developed the ability to go into the astral and to actually rip out of my body, and I usually peel out of my body, so I usually sit up from my body, and then I pull my legs out of my body and I stand up. I don't I think I floated above my body a couple of times and like looked down at it. But I generally like sit up from my body, and then I turn around and I'll feel my dead lifeless body. Um or in this instance, I was unaware. I was unaware that I was in the astral, because I had just come, because generally I go into the astral, be the first thing I do, and then I wake up out of the astral and I reflect on what just happened, and then I go to sleep. But in this instance, I had a dream, and the dream somehow transported me into the astral. And I was sitting in I was sitting in the bed that I was in. My dog, who was sleeping next to me, was right there. And my room was like the same as it is. And in my right ear and up above me, I heard what felt like a very positive spirit, and they were saying like profound things in my right, coming from my right side. So once you start experiencing spirit, either visually or in your mind, a lot of psychics, not saying I'm psychic, but a lot of psychics experience things on certain sides of their head, or certain sides of their body, or even in certain just locations in the body. Knowing can come from like the heart, or you feel it in your heart, or you feel it in your gut, or you feel it on the right side or on the left side. So I'm someone who hears anytime I'm in communication with a spirit, it's either coming from the right or the left side. And it usually starts in my ear and then sort of migrates into my mind. And sometimes it can go from a voice that's talking into clairvoyant, into knowing, into a knowing. So instead of me hearing the voice, it's like I know what they're gonna. It's like I'm collaborating with the spirit in a way, and I'm already knowing what they're saying, but and I'm not hearing it like it's a recording, but I'm knowing it with them. It's like we're co-collaborating on it. It's like my own self is is in collaboration with the spirit. So that's just a little detour about spirit communication. Spirit communication for me started with ringing in the ears. So if you ever experience like a lot of ringing in your ears, could be a sign that you're tuning into different frequencies. And but spirit communication is, for me, it's about a sensitive type of listening, and I have to like get like almost I don't know, delta, there's different types of brain waves, but I have to get into a certain type of I just got deja vu. I'm sure it's a certain kind of like brainwave that I have to get into, and it's just like calming down and getting like very quiet, and then you start listening to like the noises in the room, and you might hear a buzzing or a whizzing or a ticking or a sizzling or something, knocking, or and then you start hearing like whispering or one or two fragmented words. And you listen deeper, and you start ascribing meaning and pulling and like almost like a Rorschach test. You start to like you start to try to hear what you're hearing. You try to like make words out of the noises. It can take several minutes. It can take like 10 or 20 minutes to get to the point where you're hearing full sentences. But in this astral projection, because in the astral, my spirit ears are far more attuned and turned on. So when I'm in a lucid dream or when I'm in astral projecting, it's like the spirit contact is like really loud and very clear. And so which I imagine is where I'm going, where my trajectory is heading. over the next couple years. I'm sure that I'm going to be able to hear it. I already do. It just takes quite a while to get to like quiet my mind down. I imagine the process will be a lot shorter for me, and I'll be able to get there a lot quicker. But that's just going to take a couple years. I'm kind of new to spirit contact anyway. So I'm fairly new to this. It's only been 2 or 3 years of hearing spirit. So 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 yeah, I was in the astral, and I was sitting there. My dog was next to me. Okay, on the right side and up above was a very good voice, a very good spirit saying things to me. And because I didn't realize that I was in the astral, I took out my phone and pressed record, and was repeating back what I was hearing just so that I could remember what they were saying, because I don't have a very good memory. So I was repeating back what they were saying, thinking that my phone was recording this. But then to the left of me, in my periphery, I could sort of see a darker, more chaotic, like, presence who was also saying things to me, but they were a little bit more crazy. And because I'm open-minded, I was like, all right. And then I would repeat what that spirit was saying as well. And then it went back and forth like that for several times. I don't remember the contents of what they were talking about. I do remember them saying the word Darfur. Darfur t-shirt. Darfur t-shirt. Darfur? There was I don't know if there's still a conflict in Darfur. This one, the one on my right side, was talking about Darfur and said like something about a Darfur t-shirt. I was donating to the Darfur conflict when I was like 16. I used to even go to meetings related to things happening in Darfur, somewhere in Africa, conflict going on there. They were talking about that. But then this bloody spirit to the left of me I start suspecting that this is not a very good spirit. And as my gradual fear builds, they start inching closer to me. And then I kind of turn a little bit. I don't fully look at them in the face. I don't know why, but I just sort of kind of I'm keeping cool. I'm thinking I'm recording all this, and this will be great to listen to the next day. But I see a kind of mop of like black hair, black greasy hair, a little runty kind of spirit presence. And then I get kind of a little bit more afraid, because I'm like, oh no, because I know this is no good, because I remember what I had been watching all day. So then I even have the memory in my mind. I'm like, this is probably a negative spirit because you watch negative stuff all day. And then it comes towards me and it starts trying to suck. It burrows its head into my stomach and attempts to like start sucking or munching away at me, or I don't know, doing like this inside, like into my gut. So I have my repertoire of how to deal with negative spirits is developing as as these types of interactions continue. But I bellow with all my heart. I say, "Get out!" And it like flies. It flies away. I guess the strength of my intention was so strong in my like get out, like you shall not pass, like type of energy. I that was strong enough to send the spirit flying out of my room. And then I'm opening my eye, and then I opened my eyes. I actually literally opened my eyes, and I see it in the dark room. I see this whatever shadow being or whatever the fuck it is flying out of my room. I see it. I saw it. And yeah, and then I laid awake and I was like, oh, you fucking idiot. You had to watch those stupid videos all day. And now I'm getting this shit. Because, like, I've been working on, like, angel contact. And I've been trying to appeal to the angels. I've been trying to find angels and talk to angels. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's my big project. That's my big project 2024 is, like, um, talk to angels like on a regular basis. Um, but I'm doing myself no, and the way I've treated these last 2 weeks that I've had off, I'm not doing myself any favors, and I was getting to a really good point with my little mission there, and talking to some better spirits and angels sometimes and things, and but then I took a 3 week break and started smoking weed, and then yeah, I was talking to spirits, but then I wasn't, and the weed made ran all the spirits off, and they're like, oh, she's just a stoner, she doesn't take this shit seriously, and there was like I was knocking and nobody was answering, and yeah, it was like a black hole, so I had to put down the pipe. I put down the literal apple pipe. I was smoking out of an apple because I don't have a pipe. So I had to put down the apple, and yeah, I think I'm still recovering from just the copious amounts of weed that I smoked for excessively in excess for 3 weeks, and I've basically these last 2 weeks I've gotten a lot of sleep. I haven't really gone to the gym very much. I've gone running quite a bit. I'd go on an hour-long jog with my dog. And I've been pretty good with my yoga. I never, yoga seems to be the one constant in my life. It's just I never give up on my yoga practice. But I'm a little disappointed in myself for not going to the gym. And I had planned to do all my I'm in college, so I had planned to do all my university papers over the break, but I've only managed to do like 1.5 of them, and but I'm sort of letting myself off the hook. I'm like, because my partner is going through, he's going through a thing. This video is getting a bit long now with that telling that story, but we're both going through a little bit of a mutual depression. But I have a feeling it's going to be a rather good year for me. Basically a friend of mine told me that I'm going to have a good year, so I'm going to take her word for it. She's pretty smart. And I just am trying to keep the faith. And I think that's the one quality that I have is kind of blind faith and hope, which I always have, even in my darkest days. I've gotten nihilist. I've had suicidal thoughts in my life, but there always seems to be this like hopefulness that is uncorruptible, and I think that's one of probably my best qualities. is just the kind of hope that I can generate. Um, and I get up and I try and I try and I try and I fall down and I get up 1,000 times, like, over the course of my life. So that that's notable. Um, Other than that, yeah, that's really all I had to say. Um, but I think, you know, it's cool sometimes to let yourself off the hook, but I do feel like I need to be a little bit more regimented, and that's what I'm gonna go about doing, is being regimented, getting up early in the morning at like 5 or 6, and like taking the day on like by storm. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what I really, in my heart, would make me happy. And to also work on making some friends. So, yeah, because I'm a bit lonely and it's hard to just keep plowing and plowing and plowing away when you don't really have anyone to like share some joy with other than my partner who's depressed. So it's like, ugh, I have like really nowhere to turn, left, right. Um, but yeah, I'm unlike my boyfriend can get to put places of real despair and hopelessness. Um, but I don't allow myself to go there anymore. So I'm a creature of change. Um, I mean, there's always a through line with my life, but I'm someone who's constantly growing and changing. Otherwise, I feel nervous and anxious, and um, I just like to shift perspective and shift my life around and keep trying and growing and learning. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm gonna keep doing. And yeah, so anyway, that's just my video. So fuck depression, man. Fuck depression.